Hello and welcome to a second episode of Screencast on FindBugs. In our previous episode, we showed you how to install FindBugs as a standalone desktop application. But we didn't venture into the details of using the FindBugs tool as such. In this episode, we will dive deeper. We want to show you how to install FindBugs as a plugin for Eclipse and use the plugin instead of using the standalone application. Now, we don't have anything against the standalone version of the tool as such. But as we've discussed in our latest podcast episode, any development tool for that matter would have a better acceptance rate if it's directly integrated with the developer's coding environment, such as an IDE. Since one of our objectives is to make you, the budding developer, have an easier life, we will focus this episode of Screencast on using FindBugs directly as a plugin instead of a standalone application. But before all that, here's a quick recap on how to install FindBugs as a standalone application, just in case you forgot. Go to this website called findbugs.sourceforge.net. Once you go to this website, go to the download section. In this section, go ahead and download the latest version of FindBugs, which is available in the form of a zip. Now for convenience, I've already downloaded the zip file on my desktop. Once you've downloaded the zip file, go ahead and extract the zip file. This should hardly take a minute or two. Now, we have the FindBugs folder. Inside the FindBugs folder, go to the library folder and double click on findbugs.jar. Believe me, that's all you need to do to start the standalone version of FindBugs. Hola, here it is. Now if you want to create a new project, all you have to do is to go to File and click on New Project. Enter the name of the project. Give the name of all the class files which FindBugs should analyze. Now remember, FindBugs being a static analysis tool performs its analysis on class files, not on .java files directly. So you need to provide the class path. If you happen to have the .java files associated with the class path, go ahead and give them here. So this will make it easier for FindBugs to map the corresponding statements in the class file with the statements in the Java file so that you'll have a better visualization of where the bugs actually are in your source code. Now as I said before, we don't want to get deep into how to use FindBugs using this particular tool. We want to show you how to use FindBugs as a plugin. To do that, go ahead and close this particular application and open Eclipse. Now once the Eclipse workspace opens up, now you have to go ahead and install the plugin. It's a pretty straightforward process. Click on the help option and go to install new software. You get a window and then click on the add button. Here, in the location field, type the URL that we've given to you below the link to the screencast in our blog post and click on OK. Now since I've already done this before, there's a local cache of the particular URL from where FindBugs will be installed. That URL is here. I'm going to go ahead and directly use that. Now once I give this particular URL, it gives me the plugins that are available at that URL. Since I want the FindBugs plugin, I'll check that and click on next. Now Eclipse will go to that particular website and install the plugin for you. This is a fairly straightforward process. Click on next again to continue the installation process. Accept the terms and conditions and click on finish. Now the FindBugs plugin is almost completely integrated with the Eclipse environment. It will hardly take a minute or two. Click on OK and wait for the installation to complete. Usually after installing any plugin, Eclipse will tell you, or request you rather, to restart itself. It's always recommended that you do so. So let's go ahead and click on restart now. And Eclipse will restart. Now our Eclipse IDE has been restarted again. All we need to do now is to check whether FindBugs is installed successfully or not. To do that, we have to go to Window, the option, and click on Show View. Go click on other and see if you find bugs in here. Here it is. So this means that FindBugs is successfully installed and integrated with our Eclipse IDE. There's the three options that you see here refer to three different views that FindBugs gives you. Let's go ahead and add these to our IDE. Now those three views appear here, next to the console view. The Bug Explorer view is where you'll find a list of all the bugs that FindBugs has found in your project. Now if you want more information regarding a particular bug, say you don't understand what a bug is, then you get that more information in the bug info window. Bug reviews is when you fixed a bug and say for instance what has happened to the bug after it has been fixed. I mean, is it that the bug is still available or when was the bug reported and stuff like that. Such information is provided in the bug reviews window. We'll talk more about these three windows when we run FindBugs on a project. Now, as you know, as we have introduced to you in our blog post and podcast, we basically want to run and show how FindBugs works with two open source projects. One open source project that we have used is an email extractor project. Now, this is a fairly medium-sized Java project, which is a web scroller of sorts. What it does is basically if you give a URL, it goes to that URL, it finds all the email addresses that are there in that URL, and lists them down and gives it to you as a comma separated value. That's why I said that it's a web scroller of sorts. Now, before we want to run, so now we want to run FindBugs on this project and see how many possible bugs FindBugs can find as a result of static analysis. To do that, let's go ahead and compile or build our project first. For that, click on the project, go to the project option and say build project. Now the project is built. Now, let's go ahead and run FindBugs. Running FindBugs on a project is fairly simple. Just right click on the project name and it gives you a menu options. In that, click on the FindBugs menu option and click on FindBugs. See, it's that simple. Now FindBugs is running in the background and performing static analysis of all the source files, or sorry, the dot class files that are there in that particular package, and give you a list of all the bugs that it think have to be fixed. There you go. Now in the bracket, you see a number called 3. This basically means that FindBugs has found 3 possible bugs in our source code. So what are these 3 possible bugs? All these bugs are listed in the Bug Explorer window. You have to go there, and if you open the folder, it will tell you it gives you a one-line description of what each bug is. So for example, let's go to the first bug. Here it says int value cast to float and then pass to mat.round. So we want to know the particular line number in the source code where this bug was identified. All you have to do is to double click on that sentence and it will take you that particular line number. Now I particularly chose this because I wanted to tell how intelligent FindBugs is in performing static analysis. More often than not, if you observe, our static analysis tool that is inbuilt in Eclipse did not even recognize this particular bug. But this bug is in a way hard to find, but FindBugs still found it. What it's telling is fairly simple. It's saying that you're using the cycles variable here in this line, and you're rounding that. But what FindBugs is saying, the cycles variable is already an integer. So if you divide an integer by any number, you still get an integer. So there is no point in rounding it. So FindBugs is basically suggesting that look, you may actually want cycles to be float, but if you've used it as an int, it's not an error, it's a 1. So this is how intelligent FindBugs is in finding out errors. Now let's go and see if FindBugs is actually worth its salt. I'm going to change int to float. Now if everything works fine, FindBugs should no longer crib saying that look, you're using an int instead of a float. Let's go ahead and build this project again. Alright, now that we've built the project, let's run FindBugs on it again. Now we have to wait and watch whether FIndBugs will report the same bug or will it skip it. Aha! We already see promising results. The initial bug count was 3, now it's reduced to 2. This could mean, right. So that particular bug that FIndBugs was cribbing about, saying we're using int instead of float, is no longer being reported. So FIndBugs static analysis tool is actually very good in analyzing the code flow or the data flow in the class files, and now it checks that we are using float instead of int. So you can always perform a round on the float values. So FIndBugs is no longer cribbing about it. Now this was one of the bugs which we wanted to show you to show how intelligent FIndBugs is in ascertaining bugs. Now let's run FIndBugs in another project. The second project that we want to run FIndBugs is a console game. This game was again developed in Java, and we've explained what this game is all about. It's a strategy game, and it has been explained in the blog post and the podcast. Here, let's go directly and run and compile this particular game and run FIndBugs on it again to see the kind of bugs that FIndBugs can ascertain in this particular project. Right? So we built all the project. Let's go right click and say FIndBugs. So since this is a fairly large project, FIndBugs is going to take some time to go through all the class files and list out all bugs and warnings that it thinks are worth mentioning. So now FIndBugs is finished scrolling through all the dog class files, and it has listed out possible bugs. It's a pretty huge number if you observe here. So here it's listing 117 bugs that it thinks are possible errors and warnings that are present in our game project. Now we want to draw your attention to two particular bugs. One that will tell you the merit of FIndBugs, and one that will tell you one of the possible improvements that can be there in FIndBugs. That's what we think. So let's go to the merits of FIndBugs. This is one bug that both my colleague Saad and I think was one of the very impressive features of FIndBugs. This bug is basically telling you one thing. It's saying that even though there is a try-catch block that is enclosing a particular statement in the source code, FIndBugs is saying that, look, you have had a try-catch block, but you're not doing anything after catching the exception. This is one of the finest bugs, or one of the trickiest bugs that FIndBugs can ascertain. Any other static analysis tool, say for example the built-in tool that is present in Eclipse, just wanted to see if a checked exception was caught. Since it was caught, it went ahead and did not crib. But FIndBugs actually went one step ahead and said, look, even though you're catching, you're not doing anything with that exception. Are you sure this is what you really want to do? So this way, FIndBugs is actually very impressive in ascertaining checked exception, catching, and stuff like that. And if you observe, there's also certain levels of confidence that FIndBugs expresses in its findings. It's saying that it's highly confident that this warning is something that the developer must take care of and not just ignore. So this is one of the good features that we explored in FIndBugs. Now we want to draw your attention to one of the most general complaints of any static analysis tool. Most developers complain that the messages or the warnings that are given out by these tools are very hard to understand, and so they cannot find out what the actual problem is. So even though FIndBugs has done a great job in maneuvering over this particular complaint that's widely heard by the developer community, we still think that FIndBugs can improve in certain places. For example, FIndBugs becomes highly technical in describing certain bugs. We want to draw your attention to this particular bug that says det store to local variable. So what FIndBugs is telling is basically this. You're using a variable called brave, you're assigning it a value, but this brave is not used anywhere. You're just declaring it and assigning it, but you're not used anywhere. Now let's see what warning Eclipse itself is giving. It's giving you a very simple message saying the value of the local variable brave is not used anywhere. But let's see what FIndBugs is telling us. Now if we want to understand in more depth what this bug is all about, we can right click on that particular statement and say show bug info. This will take us to the bug info window and give us more description of this particular bug that FindBugs thinks is important for you to notice. It's saying the same thing again. It's saying that store to Brave, and it's giving the name of the particular function. But it's not giving us any more extra information. Now, if a developer did not know what that store means, it would be very hard for him or her to identify what the actual problem is all about. So we think that FindBugs can go a step further and simplify the description without getting too technical about it. So we want to stop our screencast here. All in all, our blog post basically discussed what static analysis is all about. How FindBugs actually uses techniques of static analysis like control flows and data flows and stuff like that. And it also explained in a very brief about our projects. In our podcast, we showed you and we explained how efficient FindBugs is based on some of the studies that were conducted by a group of researchers in different universities and based on papers. In our screencast, we wanted to basically draw your attention to using FindBugs. How do you install the FindBugs plugin? How do you run FindBugs on a project? How do you find out on which lines these errors are and how to get more information about those particular errors? So, we've explained about static analysis, we've explained about FindBugs, and we've explained about how to use FindBugs. We hope that these three, that is the blogcast, the podcast, and the screencast put together, will give you a comprehensive information about static analysis and FindBugs. As always, thanks for watching.